Educate Philippines recognizes that Filipinos highly value education. As a matter of fact, education is a non-negotiable aspect of our culture. Parents always prioritize their children's education above other things. Teachers dedicate their lives to imparting knowledge to the students the best way they can. Students demand relevant knowledge for their academic and professional success to enable them to contribute to national and global development. It is for these reasons that Educate Philippines offers its services to academic institutions in the Philippines to provide the right technology to teach and learn online. Educate Philippines exists to tackle the lack of LMS in institutions of basic and higher learning and the problem in connecting the teachers and students to the internet.
To succeed today, organizations need to adapt and evolve with new skills and capabilities, from machine learning to design thinking, blockchain to business skills. And the need is massive. 74% of organizations know that reskilling their workforce is important in the next 12 to 18 months, but only 10% feel ready to address this trend. At Skillsoft, our goal is to democratize learning. So we set out to create a new kind of platform based on a fundamental belief that every person has the potential to be amazing. The result? A digital learning platform driven by flexibility and personalization. It's powered by AI, but has people at its heart. Skillsoft Percipio helps learners accomplish goals, celebrate their journey, and unleash their edge. How does Percipio do it? It's all about the journey. Aspire Journeys are pre-curated, role-based, and skill-based learning paths that help companies prepare employees for the high-demand roles needed today and tomorrow, like agile development, data science, cloud computing, and leadership development. AI makes it easy. Breadth of content is great, but you need curation and customization to make it useful. Our AI-driven homepage keeps things fresh, engaging, and relevant for each and every learner. Search in human speak. Percipio's search functionality uses Google BERT natural language processing AI, which means learners spend more time learning and less time searching. Badge Up. Learners celebrate, record, and socialize their achievements with verifiable digital badges that are theirs to keep. Over 5 million earned and counting. Seamless experience everywhere. Percipio lets users learn in whatever increment they have time for, bouncing between media formats, devices, and collaboration tools like MS Teams seamlessly, without losing track or progress along the way. They can even learn while in the flow of work with our embedded learning synchronized assistant, ELSA for short. Customization and integration. Administrators can customize learning tracks, host content from other providers, and integrate into any LMS. We make it easy to make it your own. Our users already love the results they're getting from Percipio. And that's just the beginning. As the market evolves, so will Percipio, with more capabilities, more integration, and more ease of use with every iteration. Each step brings us that much closer to our mission, to democratize learning and help organizations, teams, and individuals unleash their edge.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm here to talk about Educate. If you don't know what Educate is, well, it's a solution to the current educational problem here in the Philippines. It all started when the world got screwed over by the virus. No one was allowed to meet face to face. That includes classes. So Aldrin, the CEO of Educate, decided to develop a system that would help the Philippines with their educational problems. With his expertise working in Australia, he brought about Educate, a one-stop place for online learning to be a solution to the current problems of learners and educators. This includes a learning management system, hosting, maintenance, training, support, and many more to provide the right tools and expertise to make distance learning simple and easy. We believe that no Filipino students should be left behind. So, what are you waiting for? We welcome you to the Educate family.
To succeed today, organizations need to adapt and evolve with new skills and capabilities, from machine learning to design thinking, blockchain to business skills. And the need is massive. 74% of organizations know that reskilling their workforce is important in the next 12 to 18 months, but only 10% feel ready to address this trend. At Skillsoft, our goal is to democratize learning. So we set out to create a new kind of platform based on a fundamental belief that every person has the potential to be amazing. The result? A digital learning platform driven by flexibility and personalization. It's powered by AI, but has people at its heart. Skillsoft Percipio helps learners accomplish goals, celebrate their journey, and unleash their edge. How does Percipio do it? It's all about the journey. Aspire Journeys are pre-curated, role-based, and skill-based learning paths that help companies prepare employees for the high-demand roles needed today and tomorrow, like agile development, data science, cloud computing, and leadership development. AI makes it easy. Breadth of content is great, but you need curation and customization to make it useful. Our AI-driven homepage keeps things fresh, engaging, and relevant for each and every learner. Search in human speak. Percipio's search functionality uses Google BERT natural language processing AI, which means learners spend more time learning and less time searching. Badge Up. Learners celebrate, record, and socialize their achievements with verifiable digital badges that are theirs to keep. Over 5 million earned and counting. Seamless experience everywhere. Percipio lets users learn in whatever increment they have time for, bouncing between media formats, devices, and collaboration tools like MS Teams seamlessly, without losing track or progress along the way. They can even learn while in the flow of work with our embedded learning synchronized assistant, ELSA for short. Customization and integration. Administrators can customize learning tracks, host content from other providers, and integrate into any LMS. We make it easy to make it your own. Our users already love the results they're getting from Percipio. And that's just the beginning. As the market evolves, so will Percipio, with more capabilities, more integration, and more ease of use with every iteration. Each step brings us that much closer to our mission, to democratize learning and help organizations, teams, and individuals unleash their edge.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm here to talk about Educate. If you don't know what Educate is, well, it's a solution to the current educational problem here in the Philippines. It all started when the world got screwed over by the virus. no one was allowed to meet face-to-face. That includes classes. So Aldrin, the CEO of Educate, decided to develop a system that would help the Philippines with their educational problems. With his expertise working in Australia, he brought about Educate, a one-stop place for online learning to be a solution to the current problems of learners and educators. This includes a learning management system, hosting, maintenance, training, support, and many more to provide the right tools and expertise to make distance learning simple and easy. We believe that no Filipino students should be left behind. So what are you waiting for? We welcome you to the Educate family.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to speak to you today, this morning. What a glorious morning. On this topic, how does remote learning impact students and teachers effectively and cognitively? My name is Grace Koo. I'm a professor of educational psychology from the University of the Philippines. And we shall use this format. I will lecture for 30 minutes. If you have any questions, just put them on the chat box and someone will read your questions after the first part. We have two parts, the affective impact on the first part and the second part on cognitive impact. And you have 15 minutes to ask the questions, and I will answer the questions before we go to the second part. So, are students and teachers ready to shift from face-to-face to remote learning? It's been how many months since the lockdown? 6 months, 7 months. At the start, when we have to do online learning, we were still trying to ease in. Now, many schools are easing out after the first semester. But how are we ready in this face-to-face emergency remote learning? Not of our choice, but there are many choices that are not available for us. In the UNESCO study, it was found that 64% of students express concern over staying motivated. So it looks like motivation is a problem for this remote learning. And not everyone has a home environment that will allow them to work or study from home. Students who have previously taken Open University, for example, or other online classes are more prepared. These were some of the conclusions of that study. So in other words, students will miss the social aspect of the learning experience. And I should add, so do teachers. I miss face-to-face classroom teaching. Yeah? So the interaction feedback will be immediate. Unlike here, I can see you, I can hear you. And so it's like a teaching on a radio, right? Anyway, so why is social interaction so important in learning? 55% of students find lack of social interactions troubling. So they think that they learn better with fellow students, seated with other students. Students have a strong desire also to return to in-person connections. Not seeing other students and faculty in person even contributes to anxiety, nervousness, and worry. And then added to that is this abrupt change in lifestyle has left many students struggling with how to succeed academically. In fact, just the last 2 weeks, in my 4 classes, I think in 2 classes, there were 3 or 4 who decided to drop a subject because they are moving back to the province. They are having a family member who is sick. There's life event change, being pregnant. And so there had been abrupt change in lifestyle that makes this time learning difficult. What are the differences between remote and in-person classes? Most research on remote lessons shows that in-person courses are actually more effective. Why? Because the social environment motivates students to engage and perform better. And students who already struggle in the in-person classes are likely to struggle even more with e-learning. In other words, 45% of students thinks it could lead to underperforming in their academics. So what do we do in this time of remote learning to lessen the affective impact? Let me just use the framework example of Daniel Goleman. There are 5 hallmarks of EQ. First one, First hallmark is self-awareness of emotion. Being aware that you are angry, you are upset, having labels of this emotion, that you are ecstatic or just happy, delighted. Second hallmark is self-management of emotion. So what do you do if you are unhappy or you are not are not in the mood? What do you do when you feel you are misunderstood? That's the self-management part of EQ. The third part, and this is the important part, is the self-motivation. How do you control and discipline yourself so that you can delay the gratification? And how to stay optimistic and persist despite of setbacks. There are many setbacks in our lives. How do you persist? How do you stay optimistic? The fourth would be empathy. How do you feel for other people? How to feel, how to think in another person's shoes. And the fifth is social effectiveness. For today, we are going to look at number 3 and number 4, focus on those two particularly. So first thing is self-motivation or self-regulation. And what do we mean by self-regulation? Self-regulation is not just about time management. It is self-management, in fact. You see, time is fixed. Time is not malleable. It cannot change. You cannot say the time should go slower or quicker. Time is not manageable. It goes on whether you manage it or not. But you are someone whom you can manage. So you have to think of it, self-regulation, not as time management, but as self-management. So as humans, we control our behavior and choices when it comes to work completion. How do you finish a task? How do you prioritize a task? How to stay efficient with all the distractions? And this has nothing to do with attempting to control the uncontrollable construct that is time. It is self-management. And self-regulation has 3 phases: before, during, and after. It takes so much more preparation for teachers today. You have to think ahead of what could be the problems if you are holding online or remote classes and there's a connectivity problem. Someone has lost audio and so on. So for example, if I have instructions on how they should finish a project, I tell them, and then I send them again the email of what the instructions are. And I let them review that instruction the next meeting just to just to check if they have read the instruction well. And that is not for next week's project. It's in 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time. And during learning, we do problem solving of what could be a problem of this research topic and so on. And we will have time after the semester to evaluate how we have learned throughout this remote learning. So if you look at this slide, the before, the during, and the after will require us to do so many things. We have to prepare for that. Task analysis, what are some of the self-motivation beliefs and strategies? During instruction, how can we observe ourselves or control ourselves so we remain focused? And then after a task or a project, we would go to the self-reflection phase, in which we will see how satisfied we are and how to improve our teaching or our learning. So I know this event is for both students and teachers. So we have to think in both sides of the transaction or the negotiation. So if we are looking at self-regulation, we see that self-regulation concerns not just our behavior, but of our cognition and of our motivation and affect. That's why today we want to see how we self-regulate our cognition and our affect and motivation so that we don't waste this whole semester. We will in fact gain so much from learning in this new mode. First of all, when I do webinars in other places, I let them do this test inventory. Are you a self-regulated learner? So just look at those highlighted words. Do you have a plan before you begin to do your schoolwork? Second, do you have a goal? Do you set a goal before you start working? Then visualize your goal. Imagine how you might tell whether you are acting the way that you want to act, that you are keeping up to your standards. Don't lower your standards. You have been a great teacher, effective teacher. At this time, don't excuse yourself too much. Of course, you cannot hold a full lecture or a full class because you have to allow students to do some asynchronous tasks. But don't lower your standards of preparation. So as today I'm talking with you, this is how I prepare my lessons, my lectures weekly with 10, 15, or 6 students. The same way you should keep up to a standard. Fourth, you create priorities. Put your tasks in order so you can schedule to do your work. So in my affective learning class, I asked them to just do 1 week's planning and to show to me next week how you create priorities, how you schedule all your tasks of teaching and learning, because they are both teachers and students in my class. So think of specific strategies or ways to achieve your goals. Just remember these words: plan, goal, standards, priorities, strategies. Now, expect to do well before you start doing your work. You have to do your work well and expect to do it well. Feel interested in the work. Think the work is important and relevant. Feel motivated. Feel focused. Keep track and notice if you are making progress. So all of these are important for a self-regulated learner who is a self-regulated teacher. A great teacher is a great learner. A self-regulated learner will make a self-regulated teacher. Lastly, try to figure out what you would do differently to help you improve. See a relationship between how hard you work and what you actually do. Self-correct. We are learning a lot of things. In fact, today, this is a new platform that I've not used, with maybe 30 webinars before me, all using the other platform. I had to learn. I was asked to do a rehearsal yesterday to see if I know how to just enter this platform. Self-correct and adjust your effort. Give yourself a reward or punishment. Self-consequencing is very important. So whether you finish your work or not, you have to reward yourself. What is one great reward for myself? It's an ice cream. I like ice cream. So at the end of a day's work, I give myself a Magnum original chocolate ice cream. Punishment, then you have to work harder if you have missed something. because of a lack of attention to details. Self-regulated learner. Are you such a person? On the other hand, as a teacher, this is the time that we have to practice and keep on practicing teacher empathy. What is empathy? The fourth point of Daniel Goleman's EQ, right? Empathy. And this is the time when we can learn teacher empathy. Teacher empathy is the degree to which an instructor works to deeply understand students' personal and social situations. Okay, use 5 minutes at the start and at the end to ask about your students' health, about their family. And I'm good at remembering what they just shared the other week. And I would say, how is it this time? Yeah. Has that improved the situation? To feel care and concern in response to students' positive and negative emotions, negative as well as positive emotions. Even if students come to your class gladly and willingly, they're carrying some kind of negative emotions as well. Make them feel safe and secure to share about their negative emotions as well. To respond compassionately without losing the focus on student learning, without losing the focus. Even if we are empathetic, we're trying to give more empathy at this time. Don't lose the focus on student learning. Help them out. And yet, so that they will still achieve what we expect them in their potential to achieve. Communicate to students through course policies as well as the instructor's behavior towards students. There have been a lot of changes in course requirements. I'm a taskmaster. I would, for example, a semester, I would require several tasks or projects that would come up to 500 points. But for this semester, I had to lessen some of the requirements and in a scale of 300 points, not 500 points. There have been lots of policies that are made in college level, in university level as well. So we work within the parameter, yet in our own classroom situation, we can do certain changes and yet not losing the focus on students' learning. So I learned from University of Pennsylvania this easy to remember acronym, I care. I care. We're talking about affective impact at this time. Inquire, connect, acknowledge, respond, and explore. And what do we mean by inquire? Ask the students, how are you doing? Tell me more about your mother, about your supervisor that you had a problem with. I noticed that, I observed that. That's inquiring. Connect. Remove distractions. As much as possible, even if I'm advising many thesis and dissertation writers, try to understand how they could remove some of the distractions in their life so they can continue on, do progress, have some progress in their work. The same way with my students. And also pay attention to their and your body language. As much as small as this little screen there, try to also pay attention to how they pause, how they glare, how they ponder, and so on. Also, try to connect to what they are saying, even in the next meeting. Acknowledge. Yeah? Acknowledge. You can say, it sounds like I'm hearing that. Acknowledge their emotions. Respond. I feel concerned. I'm interested to know more. I want to get you some help. Respond. And explore. Can I give you some suggestions, some advice? Have you considered talking to, maybe you can visit this person, explore ways on how to help my students to do better critique papers. I would say, who has the best work in this critique paper? If you are interested to improve, you may ask for a copy or even invite that person to share again on screen how he did it. Explore. I care. Inquire, connect, acknowledge, respond, and explore. And why is that so? Because a connection with a caring teacher can be a lifeline for a vulnerable student. A lifeline. Provide a lifeline for a vulnerable teacher. So, may I suggest 3 ideas? I believe that this event is for teachers from several parts of the country. 3 ideas school-wide. Ask ourselves, what will COVID-19 teach us? What will it inspire us to change? First thing, train teachers as gatekeepers. Help them feel comfortable offering students empathy and support. You cannot say, you just go to the guidance office. Teachers should not be caring about other things than teaching. While pinning down students can be difficult, teachers, in theory, have to go to class, whether it's remote, blended, or in-person class. And professors in the tertiary level have always already served as mentors for their thesis and dissertations, for example, in some capacity. Train teachers as gatekeepers. Second, integrate resilience or wellness into curriculum. Now, in educational psychology, where I've been teaching for 25 years at UP, we have such a course. It's called affective learning. And every year I try to, every year or every other year, I would be handling that course. And in that course, we integrate resilience and wellness into the course syllabus so that it will reflect a holistic approach to education that blends learning and personal growth. This requirement in University of Southern California is called Thrive. Thrive, such a good course name, Foundations of Well-Being. Yeah, so it's a requirement of the students that they need to take. Includes mental health, and it is treated as seriously as any academic matter. Third suggestion is to create supportive learning environment. Reevaluate syllabi, and academic policies during this remote learning period. Identify the struggling students. Create wellness time and space, even within the course lecture, and train faculty and staff to do mental health first aid. So I've been doing webinars on mental wellness. In fact, for several organizations and schools, it is a 5-hour, around 5-session course, and it takes about 8 hours to do mental health first aid. Introduce participants to risk factors and warning signs of mental illness. So we go through stress, depression, the DAS scale. What is anxiety? What is depression? What is stress? And how are they different? So they are asked to do a self-evaluation, and the next week we look at details of what are the differences among stress, anxiety, and depression. Okay, so I'm here to answer some of your questions if you do have questions. And Professor Ducapante, I believe, will be the one to gather your questions in the chat box and to bring to my attention. Yeah. Okay.
Good morning, Dr.
Yes. Hello, Teacher Grace.
Yes, Teacher Grace. As of the moment, we don't have questions from
Mm-hmm.
both the Jitsi platform and our YouTube, but we
Mm-hmm.
do have a comment
Yeah.
from Justin Malate. Let me just read his comment. We
Mm-hmm.
have those principles towards our beliefs, culture, and understanding. And I think there's no hindrance in that just to reach our motives in life.
How is that again? Can you repeat it?
We had those principles
Yeah.
towards our beliefs, culture, and understanding. And I think
Mm-hmm.
there's no hindrance in that just to reach our motives in life.
Yeah, of course. That's good. Yeah. And in fact, this is the time that will make or break a person. Yeah. For what you have already learned and what your character is and how you usually deal with problems in life. This is a test, a time of a test for many of us. Yeah. People who are not used to stay quiet, to not be restless and walk about places will find it very difficult. Is it more difficult for extroverts than introverts during this lockdown? There had been both sides of the study. Yes, for most who would every day go out of the house would find it difficult to stay in house for so many hours. And yet, there has been several studies too about how children with autism actually prefer to use this machine, internet, laptop, rather than with other people, and they feel that they can handle it better. Later on, we're going to talk about the screen agers who would rather prefer the company of machines or internet than human to human interaction. Secondly, even if you hold classes online for children with special needs, some of them prefer that because it's a pace at their own time and they could understand the talking back and forth because there is a slight delay, time lag between one person speaking and the next one. And not everyone can be speaking at the same time, yeah, which is overstimulating for children who are having problem of processing so many sensory information at the same time. However, this is also a time for us to think of more serious subjects like, we think we are in control of our time and so on. Time has the eternal dimension. So I was at the first month, I was thinking, oh, so much time has been wasted. Yeah. Because of this suspension of class, you cannot do this and you cannot do that and so on. Because we are type A people like to achieve things over a week, and we like to plan and schedule on the calendar, and we want to check that this has been accomplished, and many things are not within our control. And yet, within the day that you can control for the next hour and so on, how do you use your time? It is a time for us to have family bonding. Many people would rather prefer not to talk with their family members, like to talk with other people over the social media and so on. It's a time when you have to be content that your family is together in a place under a roof. Yeah. So there are many learnings, benefits, gains in this kind of a situation. So the cultural values or the beliefs, even your cultural beliefs or religious beliefs, would be coming in handy on how we can deal or handle ourselves well during this time of the pandemic. And we don't know how long this is going to take, yeah, before we can go back to the life that we had been used to. Okay?
Dr. Ku,
Yes.
there are several questions now.
Yeah, go ahead.
let me read one from Maria Teresa Tenchavez. How can we determine if a student is anxious or depressed already?
Okay. Now, anxious is always about tomorrow. Yeah. Anxious about tomorrow, about the future. So in my class, we talk about the time perception. Are you a person who looks back on the past more, or to the present, or to the future? Anxiety. Anxiety will go into depression if over a long period of time it does not change. Your mood does not, whether if a situation has changed and you are still feeling so sad. It's a very long term of sadness. And depression also is different from stress, because stress you have to do something. Depression is very passive. You want to stay in bed for over a long period of time. You don't want to see anyone. You like to be in the dark. It's a withdrawal. It's feeling that the world is so dark. Yeah, and that is a depression. So there are lots of inventories, tests. One of which I would advise you to use is DASS, Depression, Anxiety, Stress Scale. It has several versions, the longer version, the shorter version, and they are easily downloadable over the internet. If you're interested, it's called the DAS scale. And I have my students do that. And there are 3 columns. Some questions are asked on the column of D and A and S. And at the end, you total the column and you'll find out, you will total it and see if you are over, and there are scoring instructions there as high, yeah, low, or middle, regular, and so on. So there are lots of these inventories. That would be the first step, just the first step. Don't say, I don't have this depression and so on. Yeah. If you still have problems of feeling long-term sadness, yeah, find someone to talk it out with. And by the way, it is important also for us to understand that there's a period of time. How long? Yeah, there are many kinds of anxiety, many kinds of depression, maybe 12 kinds of, yeah. And you may read some of these materials over the internet, but whenever you feel that for 6 months I've been experienced at least 4 of these 6 symptoms, yeah, talk to a friend or with your mentor or your teacher. Yes, Teacher Grace.
Another question, Dr. Ku, from Rogesa Lopez. How can we know the state of mind of students when we cannot see them or their cameras are turned off during an online class?
Yeah. Okay. So my class, they have to unmute and they have to show on their face on the camera. Yeah, unless they're going to the toilet or going somewhere to take a drink or what, they would put it on the chat box so I would know. Do you know that some students take advantage of this online learning and are not actually there, and they would be sleeping, or yeah, they just turn on the internet. So what do? Yeah, you find out they're in the middle. Because our classes are 3 hours, so it's long. Yeah, but for the asynchronous part, so I do just 2 hours, and the third hour is for them to do something. Near the end, I will check their attendance again. I don't have any problems because they are graduate students, very motivated. But they were sharing with me of how they found out that they're students in the basic education, doing all kinds of hanky-panky there. On the other hand, however, of course, they may have real connectivity problem there. Yeah, they usually would write me immediately through the email while I'm even lecturing that they lost connection and so on. How do you know how they are feeling? You have to ask good questions. Yeah, and they are to share. And it's interesting during, of course, even in face-to-face classes, my students will be sharing their emotions and their feelings about or thoughts about certain things. It's how you ask questions and make sure that this sharing are confidential. Yeah, it's within this class. And I'm glad that many of these students are very mature on how to listen. The art of listening is important for teachers at this time. Yeah, you don't just see them; you hear the words. Yeah, and I observed that you have used these words 3 times. Is it really something that is bothering you? I would have to share something. In my PhD class, there's someone who's just promoted to be a principal of a public school and so on. And she was always coming to the same tune of how their work is not appreciated or acknowledged, and there have been so many changes and so on. And I teased her. I said, "Yeah, it's been 8 weeks in the meeting. I think you might want to go to the complaint desk of DepEd or something, or would you be able to tell this?" She doesn't like much of the work that she's been asked to do. Your supervisor, you can always say yes or no. So I talked about boundaries. How do we keep boundaries and margins in our life? It's very important here. Yeah, art of listening. Without so many words, you can hear even the emotion. Sometimes we could even hear that she's scared or she's happy. She's delighted that she was. Are you happy about this? Or even in such courses as a PhD course that is very academic about critique paper and so on, we can hear from the voice, from the tone, from the volume of a student sharing. Make sure they appear on camera. If you could just handle it, the speaker should be on camera so you can see them too. And this is important. Try to write to them personally, email that I could hear that if you don't want the rest of the people to know, you can share email that is private. Yeah, or even the chat box privately. Yeah, and then afterwards follow up on what they had just shared. Okay, Teacher Grace.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ku, for those practical tips. Another question from Sir Bernie Reyes. As part of self-management, your recommendation of weekly objectives or goal is a great way of progressing to achieve our personal goals. Using this formula, what is your guidance to be continuously motivated and consistent during these difficult times?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for asking. Having taught this course called Motivation in Education, that's why you have to come to UP. We have interesting courses. Motivation in Education, EDFT 303, for the last 25 years. I know all the theories, 25 theories of motivation. Yeah, one of which would be self-efficacy. Yeah, you should feel you are able to do something, so you'll approach the task gladly. Another important theory is self-determination. You have to feel that I would like to accomplish this within this timetable and so on. Yeah. And because most importantly, I think I like to learn. I learn a lot. In fact, on the first 100 days of lockdown, I contributed a piece in the Philippine Daily Inquirer, and I titled it 100 Days of Learning. If you have time, you just type my name, Philippine Daily Inquirer, 100 Days of Learning. Now, those 100 days, right after almost the first semester is done, I've done I like learning, and I learned so much. I read very difficult books. I sing very difficult music. I sing the Bach chorale together with the choirs and so on. And I like to take down notes. I have lots of notebooks. And I like to relearn things. And I think a lifelong learner is what describes me. and that makes me motivated. This is one career that is self-motivating because you keep on learning. You keep on learning. After 25 years, you're still learning new things, and that makes you motivated. That makes intrinsic motivation so important at this time. So how do I stay motivated? I want to do the best for whatever situation there is. And I think I am good at saying yes or no. Yeah, I don't accept all kinds of speaking engagements. I don't, if I feel this will take too much time, for example, commuting to this province or that, I would decline. And I would also not take any administrative work if I don't feel that I'm the best person to do it. Yeah, I am. I like to learn. So if given the gracious decision of the college and of the university, I've declined many academic or rather administrative work because I don't think I will be in the best position to do it. And I think other people will do it. It's just saying yes or no. Yes to what you are good at. Yeah. Ikigai, you're passionate about and you have the ability to do well. And no to those that you think other people might do better. Okay. Teacher Grace?
Dr. Ku, before I proceed to the next question, there's a request for you if you can do a full screen. So kindly press F5. And if you can also turn on your camera, please. Thank you.
Why? Am I not on camera? I thought I've been in camera all the time. I'm trying to look pretty. Okay, kanina I turned on the camera. Somebody must have missed the camera. Where's that? Should I stop share first?
No, ma'am, you don't have to stop sharing.
We can see you now. We can see you now, Dr. Ku. Thank you.
You know, actually, 10 minutes before that, I unmuted and I clicked the camera. Somebody must have. Yeah. So, camera and what else do you want?
Full screen, Dr. Ku, of your presentation.
All right, full screen.
Thank you.
So, okay. So are we going to go to the second part? Time is right, no? Or do you have another?
Can you still accommodate a last question?
Sure, please.
Okay, so I'm going to integrate the questions from Coco Pimentel and John Larry Medin. So the question is, you mentioned that according to UNESCO findings, students express their concern to be motivated. How do you think can teachers in public schools motivate their students, especially now that they are answering modules and attending online classes? Thank you.
You know, one little trick would be, use some humor and use more stories. Yeah. Story. This is appealing to a right brain story and humor. Sometimes after class, during class in the PhD level at night, we were sharing stories and so on. And we kept on laughing and so on. And after I dismissed the class, I was still laughing. And some of my students would write immediately email how they enjoyed the class, what they learned about the lesson and so on. They are very eager. Let me tell you that my students, I would say 2:30 is the class, start of the class, but I will send you the Zoom details at 2:15. And then I will give you enough time because I don't know where you are in the country. Yeah. At 2:30, that's when I admit you in. Yeah. And at 2:45, so that I give 15 more minutes for a grace period, I will check your attendance. Let me tell you, by 2:15 or 2:14, I sent the Zoom details. At 2:15, they are already admitting themselves in, and many of them are waiting. So from 2:15 to 2:45, I keep on admitting. I just that is a good sign that they are eager to already enter the classroom and so on. Yeah, and I think a little humor and lots of stories. I've learned so much from my students. Yeah, some of them are from very unexpected background. Some are from very atypical UP background. And yet we could come to class together and share stories. Yeah, learn about the students as a person, not always about the content, the textbook, and so on. Yeah, so my gains every semester is to know so many more students, so many more stories from my students. Treat them as persons. Yeah, and they don't know me. So I'm glad that some of my former students who got hold of this event announcement were emailing me about how they would be so interested to join. Okay? So I'm going to go now to the part two. Sorry? Yeah, somebody's microphone is not muted. Yeah, I'm going to continue now on the second part of this lecture, and that is the cognitive impact. So if we have a class called affective learning, that's EDFD 206, this class cognitive learning is EDFD 202. Yeah, it's a way to promote some of our courses too at the UP, College of Education. And of course, cognitive learning is very content rich, but I'm going to just pay attention to very few things that are most practical and applicable in our situation. Now, do you know, first of all, the digital technologies, I probably have 200 articles on these digital technologies, how digital technologies impact our learning. First of all, attention. People these days have attention deficit, ADHD. Whether you are a special student with special needs or not, it's on the spectrum. Some have more serious attention problem, some less. And why is that? Because there's too much distraction, too many stimuli, too many kinds of information. Secondly, people are so dependent on their gadget, they don't think that memory is in their head. Memory is now in a USB stick on in the cloud, yeah, in the Google Drive. So what happened to memory? Yeah?
Dr. Ku,
Yes.
may I just interrupt you because you are not showing your screen? Full screen, please, F5. Thank you.
All right. So let me go back. Okay, where? So I have to go back here. Yeah, kasi kanina I was continuing. Is it now on?
Yes, Dr. Ku. Then, can you kindly click the hide word beside the stop sharing?
All right.
Yes,
Okay.
that one. And one last request. My apologies, Dr. Ku.
Yes.
In your Jitsi, in your browser, kindly click the camera button.
All right. Okay. That's why it's easy to use what is familiar. Okay, where I did that kanina. Why would it keep on going back to ano kaya? I just wonder. Okay, is it on?
Yes,
Do you
Dr. Ku, we can see you now. Thank you so much.
Okay, and do you see the slides as well?
Kindly click your PowerPoint now, ma'am.
Is it?
Yes,
You see?
Dr.
Huh? Do you see the slides?
Yes, we
Sorry.
can see it now.
Can you see the slide and myself?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
Dr. Ku.
Okay. Now.
Baka merong potential na, okay, yung mga ibang SGC will band together and they will form.
Okay, so if I put it on a full slide now, I'll do this. Can you see it?
Yes,
Yes,
Dr. Ku.
yes, Dr.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
What happened in the part one? You should have been telling me, kanina. Okay, anyway, digital technologies impact learning in the following ways. Everyone has an attention problem. Yeah, it's attention deficit, ADHD. Yeah? In other words, some more serious, some less serious. And why is that so? Because of the distractions. So many social media gadgets and machines that we are using. Secondly, memory. These days, students don't feel they have to remember because everything is in the internet, and they can just put it in the cloud or the Google Drive in even a stick. Yeah? So memory is not being trained. Thirdly, people these days have a problem of reading, and I will tell you why reading is such crucial in learning. Fourth, students feel they can write a small little phrases, and that makes for thesis writing. Goodness, writing is to organize your thoughts, and yet you can use less words. Some words are not necessary. Yeah, and spelling. Let me tell you. And lastly, digital technologies has impacted learning in the motivation, in that we feel we know something and we don't go dig deeper. We have shallow learning. Yeah. So let me just point to what screenagers are thinking differently by Richard Watson. There are many important things in that book. Let me just mention 5 things. Screenagers do a lot of multitasking, parallel processing, nonlinear image-driven kind of learning. And memory now means hard drive, Google. Everything is by virtual choir, a virtual classroom. Prefers machine to humans, and people want instant response to live in the now, present. Hyper alert to multiple streams of information, very shallow understanding. So not only are the teenagers screenagers, most people at different stages of our lives are screenagers. You see, reading is a linear process, one word at a time, one alphabet at a time, in fact, one word and then one sentence and then one paragraph. Reading takes time. People these days don't have time. Yeah? They think machines help us do things so quickly. We have the laundry, the washing machine, the rice cooker, and so on. And yet we don't have time. How about our ancestors when everything they do, they have to go and get the wood and so on? Yeah? Reading takes time, and yet people feel they don't have time with too many gadgets. Reading is calm, and it has to be sustained. The reading, you have to remember what you read yesterday or on the last few pages and so on. However, these days, the digital technologies have these features. No time to think now. Click, 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 click. Yeah? Easily distracted. We feel restless. What else can I see? Even for teachers, this is difficult. Let me tell you. I always accept my students' papers printed, hard copy, and I use pencil to correct, to make a feedback immediately on the sites. But these days, everything is submitted online through email. It's difficult to just go down and scroll. You have the tendency to just scroll if you are not careful, if you are not motivated. And then we have poor memory. Cannot remember names of theorists, of what this concept is about. Poor memory. So reading in the digital age, what happens? We have the propensity to rush, just point and click. We're overwhelmed by so much amount of information. You keep on going to further links. So you see, The internet seizes our attention, then scattered. You don't remember what was the original article you were reading. Unable to digest, because digestion means to take a little time and think. Books give a sense of permanence, and books can be read, can wait to be read carefully. So there's a difference reading in a digital age between the hard copy and the soft copy. Let me point that out. Reading should be deep diving on that upper picture, on the left side picture, the diving. But people these days, if they have more time, are just snorkeling. Moreover, more seriously, this is a problem. People are just surfing. So from diving to snorkeling to surfing. And it's true. People surf the internet. They are not reading. And why is reading important? Ebooks or printed books? The ebooks used are different from print books. Ebooks, searching information rather than reading. So from this research that I'm summarizing here, students self-report, they read ebooks in a shallow manner. Distractions are abundant when reading on a web-enabled device. They tend to multitask while reading ebooks. They tend to skim or scan rather than read for understanding. And they are more likely to revisit and restudy previously read materials if they are in print rather than ebook format. We can always go back where we highlighted, where we ask the questions on a hard copy book. So student preference for accessing academic content is still in print, and that remains strong. For printed books, it's easier to read printed books when reading complex text. It's complex, it's philosophical, it's theorizing, it's problematizing for tertiary level. So it's still would prefer printed books. So if you can print out, of course, that's good. What amazing thing we have here is that many of these Sage, Taylor, also offered free ebooks. And let me tell you what I've been doing in the past several weeks. I've been downloading so many of these free ebooks. EBSCOhost too. Students learn less well with ebooks because reading on screen undermined comprehension. Students have better recall. This is an actual experiment when working with print. When learning and comprehension are the goal, students appear to perform better with print books. All right. So, what can on the side of the teachers do? Teaching is not just transmitting knowledge or information. It is helping our students to construct knowledge, to create their own knowledge. So if we want to go into a higher order learning, it should not just be association and repetition. You ask a question that is already in their module, and they just repeat back. That's lower order of thinking. Information gathering is a bit higher. They have to get more information, and they have to process those information. They have to synthesize the information. Creating knowledge is the higher order, it's the highest order. Now, with those information, what are the implications? What would change in the teaching or the syllabus or the curriculum? So creating knowledge is not from a vacuum. Creating knowledge is not from a vacuum. You have to read, you have to know behaviorists, and then gather more information, and then create your knowledge. So it's a very a common, familiar word for those who had taken education courses, scaffolding, Vygotsky's theory. We help our students to create knowledge by helping to organize what they should know. So you have to prepare well your syllabus or your lesson plan. Organize even how they can do their assignments. Give them helps, organize. Ask good questions after their reading. Now, for example, what has changed so much in my teaching this semester? There are so much more other kinds of readings other than those for the critique papers. So I offer a lot of readings each week after our discussion and lecture. They have to read something and I ask questions, or some of the questions could be asked next week. And their participation will help them to understand and remember what they just read and to offer clues. Yeah? Your questions can offer clues, or if they are a bit off from what should be understood from an article, you give some clues. Your questions are offering some kind of clues for them. So that's about reading part. How about assessment? How can we help our students at this time of the pandemic with certain assessment reconsiderations or considerations? We have to value both kinds of thinking, the convergent type as well as the divergent thinking. Converge is to converge, come to one solution, one exact answer. That's convergent thinking. Divergent thinking, you begin with a clue, with a prompt, and that prompt should be generalizable enough so that they can generate many solutions, open-ended. So if you look at these two modes of thinking, I'm thinking for some of you who are teaching in the basic education level and in public school, you might not have so many choices in your lesson plan or about how you can make the test and so on. So use those time when you are discussing to already encourage both kinds of thinking. It doesn't have to come in a form of a test paper. Critical thinking for convergent, as well as creative thinking. Imagine, what if? Selective. You give choices for them to select an answer, multiple choice. But you should also allow for a generative kind of answer, open-ended question. And accept, try to see the worth of each answer. Goal-oriented, once you achieve that goal, they move to the next question. Divergence should be experimental. As you listen to their answers, you should pay attention. Many teachers are not paying attention to students' answers. From there, you can give more questions. Yeah? Analytical to provocative. Yeah? Try to be provoking, thought-provoking. Make them think. And make them question themselves, their answers, their assumptions. Sequential, yeah. Step 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Enumeration type is sequential convergent, but also intuitive. So I ask my students to do Myers and Briggs so they would know if they are of the judgmental or the open-ended, tentative kind of answers. Exclusive, once the answer is there. This one, on the other hand, divergent, is expansive. One question gives several answers, and several answers would make more questions. Self-limiting, once you achieve the answer, you limit yourself. But the other one is explorative. Explore, yeah? Exploring, meaning you have not arrived to the final answer. Many times we are just perceptive, non-judgmental, meaning not conclusive. It's not premature closure. It should be more creative. See, these two modes of thinking should be happening even while you teach, whether in modules, in writing your modules, or in giving lectures. How about the assessment of both formative and summative? Now, let me use an example. I ask my students to do research. and they have to give me the title. Yeah, many weeks before, even before they submitted they are to submit the group paper, group research, or individual research. And every time they submitted a topic, I would already give suggestions on how they may improve on this topic. So you see, the goal is to improve. Summative is to prove now, to prove that you know something, to improve. It's different from to prove. The purpose of formative is to enhance their learning. Summative is already to make judgment of how well they do. Formative occurs during instruction while lecturing already. I would give examples of, you see, the problem of this group one could be further improved so that the other students of other groups can also hear on how they may improve in their research topic. Not after instruction, but during instruction, and should be continuous rather than at the end of the semester. The role of formative learning or assessment is to improve learning, allows teachers to make decisions and monitor. I think they have a big problem here. So I would send more materials that would help them do argumentative a paper or exposition paper. What kind of different papers you send them helps. And this is to already predict and judge their performance. Okay. So lastly, we have much time, huh? I just want to share with you some of the self-care tips. By the way, before we go, so in this part on the cognitive learning, what we can do is to understand 4 things. That it is not just transmitting, but constructing knowledge. Secondly, we can do a lot more in scaffolding our students in their learning, make some changes in our assessment so that we value both the convergent and the divergent thinking, as well as the formative and the summative kind of evaluation. All right. So lastly, we have a good use of time, the mental wellness. I'm given from 10 to 11:30 for this event. So I'm going to end with some mental wellness during the pandemic before answering for the last 15 minutes to answer your questions, further questions on the cognitive impact, or even if you just joined in the affective impact of this lecture. First, I've been concerned. I've done mental wellness webinars since I think July, August, September, and October. During the weekends or other times and so on. And I feel that many people are having real difficulty of sleep, or having a problem of headache. And some of them are so stressed, losing weight, and so on. I feel that if I were to give 5 tips, for the sake of this group particularly, first thing we have to understand is to be good to your body. Without the body, without health, whatever theories, whatever expectations that your supervisor would require you cannot achieve. Be good to your body. So by being good to your body, you have to have enough sleep, enough food, good food, nutrition, enough exercise. Some of my attendees of mental wellness, after the second session, said she was running already in her village, jogging. At first, for 15 minutes was difficult. At the end of the wellness program, she was jogging for 1 hour, and she was really toned. She actually lost weight, and she started on her music career. We started your music career again. Be good to your body. Are you good to your body? We are good to so many people, but not ourselves. Take care of your body. Health is even more important at this time. Second, follow a schedule. Even within this limited situation with so many limitations, we have to be productive. Follow a schedule. What time do you wake up? How much time do you work? Yeah, you give yourself equal importance to both mental and manual work. That's the purpose in Genesis. To name the animals and plants and so is mental, but you have to till the soil. So I was watching the news and there are so many plantita. That's really good. Manual. Yeah? So do some manual household chores as well. Follow a schedule. But do give schedule just more importantly to your work and to your learning. Not too much time for social media. Follow a schedule. If you cannot live without the social media, schedule it. Schedule it. It will happen at 8 p.m. to 8:30 or what. So yesterday I was asking my students. Some of my students were really good because one of the articles talked about an app. It's called Quantified Self App. And you can check how much time you use your gadget. And this girl was particularly productive and did very well in all her papers. And she said after reading that, she downloaded it and tried it herself. And I asked her, so what did the app tell you about how much time you use? She said, just 1 hour and 45 minutes. And everybody was applauding her. I said, 1 hour and 45 minutes. How many hours are you using your internet or your gadget for social media? Most of them, I would say, about 4 hours. And that's supposed to be a UP student. And is that important? Is it relevant to your life, what you are trying to be curious about from other people's lives? Yeah? Follow a schedule because time is gone. Yesterday is gone. Yeah? And what you have to do that are worthier of your time management, self-management. Follow a schedule. Every day you have to wake up, you have to take a bath, you have to take your breakfast, you have to really sleep well. That's following a schedule. Third, be kind to your mind. We are bombarded with all kinds of bad news and so on. Yeah, do I have to know this? Is this important? Yeah. Of course, we are not recluse. And yet we want to engage with our society. And yet there are really people who are so mean on the social media. Do you have to read those comments after the news? Yeah, I watch the news and I read the papers, Inquirer. And how mean could people be? I feel so sorry for people who are being bullied. Yeah, be kind to your mind. Read inspirational books. At 5 in the afternoon, I would face, because I'm here in this place where I look out the windows and there are 6 hills, a range of hills. And I will look up there and just see the clouds. And I take pictures every now and then and how the clouds are forming. Be kind to your mind. Fourth, find moments of stillness. Can you be still for a while? Be still and know that I am God. It's Psalm 46. Find moments of stillness. So I teach my class about mindfulness, about meditations of many kinds. Some people are not suitable for certain kinds of deep meditations, and find a way to make time. You have to make time for certain things if it is important for you. What is important in your life? Lastly, it's the time that we can share so much love with our a lot of this Zoom, Google Meet, and here is this new one, Jitsu. Yes, yeah. We can share so much of our knowledge and what we know and tips to other people. And then I'm always very inspired by people sharing food. Yeah? Even if I don't cook, I cannot cook well. Yeah, I'm inspired by people helping each other. Give donations. If you cannot give in kind, do that. This is the time to be generous with our love because we don't know what will happen in the future. And yet we are hopeful. Hope is different from optimism. Hope is in the faithfulness of God. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. That's sharing love because we know the one who is most faithful is our Lord Jesus Christ. And thank you very much. And I would be happy to hear from you and answer some of your questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koo, for the very insightful presentation. We've learned a lot from you. We have several questions on the chat box. Let me read one from Sir Bernie Reyes. What is your guidance or self-care tips for both teachers and students in this digital age where there is a lot of distraction to improve and to be able to engage in self-directed path and progress at the learner's pace without losing sight of their overall learning objective?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Self-care, we have to be kind to our mind. Yeah, this may be drastic for you. Yeah, but this person, Mr. Bernie, I don't have social media account. So you cannot find me in any social media account, Twitter, Facebook, whatnot, and so on. Only thing that is near that is because two churches are asking me to join their virtual choir. So I have to be in their Viber group. That's the only Viber group because they make announcements, not anymore through the emails, but through that Viber group. So I have so much less distractions than most of you because I say no to social media. And yet I can be productive. I can be a professor. I can write. I can work for other NGOs and so on because I have more time. Yeah, I control the time that I will use distractions. Secondly, of course, you have to. Certain things are beyond your situations. Yeah, what happened to your family members that you have to take care of? Oh, those are things that you cannot say no to. Yeah? I always believe in this. No, yeah? Grant me oh Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. What is lacking is in the courage to change the things I can. Maybe you should don't have to deal with toxic friends or toxic comments. You have the courage. If you have the courage to say no, you don't have to be a yes, seeking people's approval so much. Yeah? But if there's something that you should speak out, you have to speak out. Sometimes people ask you to speak out because maybe of your age, your status, your personality, you speak out for them. Yeah. Courage to change the things I can, but serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Yeah? Or sometimes we're born with certain disabilities or certain things that we cannot that cannot be cured, illness and so on. Serenity. But those that we can change, everyday life, practical things, have the courage to change. But most importantly, the wisdom to know the difference between what we can change and what we cannot change. And wisdom actually is to look at the highest goal in your life and what are the best means to achieve that. There will be many hindrances, obstacles that would keep you from the best. Sometimes good things. There are many good things. But among the good things, you have to choose the best path toward what you can achieve in your life. So I believe everyone has a potential to achieve further improvement in your own life, character, personality. We are still growing. Neurogenesis, our neurons are changing, are growing every day. We can learn, even at my age. I'm still learning. I read several books at the time because I would like to learn more from all these new authors. Yeah? So keep out the distractions. Go inside. Go inside. The externals are out there, but go inside. What do you want? What do you need? What is most important for you in life? Go inside. Have some time to reflect on what you want in life. Okay? Teacher Francie?
Dr. Ku, the next question is from Christina Munar. Students still prefer writing on a printed copy of their module. It's fascinating to know which is better in retaining information and transferring knowledge, printed or soft copies of modules.
Okay. That is, if you are meeting with the students, I have a student who is a teacher. Every Friday or Wednesday and Fridays, she has to go to school to hand out the modules for this to these students. And the next week, she has to collect from the parents. I think it was the parents who come to take the modules. No, I would personally, I'd like to use pencil or pen, because as you are thinking, this even just writing is very therapeutic. Calligraphy, writing slowly, is therapeutic. If you are typing, it's just the sound, staccato thing. It's not very therapeutic. While you are writing, it's legato, slower, andante. Now, if you don't have any choice anyway, because my students cannot submit a hard copy for me. Can you imagine if they have to use the courier every time they have to submit something? They can do that online. And as much as possible, let me tell you, I would do comments on the site for thesis and dissertation. But for papers that are critic papers, term papers, I make notes. I do note taking. This person is good in where, weak in where, and so on. Next week, I already, or 2 weeks after, I let them know my comments from the papers, such as this thing, where I write down their comments. So they would know enough feedback soon enough to improve on their second paper. So there are several ways. Now, what works for you may not work for your students, and what works for your students may not be your best type of preference. So you have to compromise somewhere. So, for example, let me tell you about my last semester. I gave all kinds of information, comments, and I put them in a 1/4 sheet of paper. I even told my students, when we meet again, hopefully not in heaven yet, when we meet again in class in UP, I will give that comment paper to you personally, so you can see the scores, the little scores that you have accumulated for that particular grade. Okay, somehow we have to compromise because of these limitations. Yes, Teacher Francis.
Dr. Ku, the next question is from Louis Dasas. Is there
I think he was my student. Yeah.
The question is there an ideal class size for remote teaching? I struggle to attend to a class with 40 to 45 students.
Yeah.
What is your advice for teachers like me who experience the same thing?
Yeah, hello. I think he graduated at his doctorate. my preference is just between 12 to 15. Well, because I teach graduate school, yeah, MA and a PhD. If you have 40 students, if you don't mind, Dr. Das says, to split them into two sections, well, it will be more work for you, of course. But if you can see all of them, you know, in all my classes, at every maybe 10 minutes after I share, I would stop the share so I would see everyone, and everyone has to unmute. And we are talking about how we what we learned from this research or that lecture and so on. And then I use the breakout rooms a lot. So with 14 or 16, I'll group them into 4 or to 3, and they are to chat among themselves. And if I wanted answers, they can write on the chat box, so I already see what they think about this and that. And when they come back after 10 minutes or 5 minutes, I would already be assured that everyone has participated. This is very important, participated. Now, if you can stop share and see everyone, the problem is, however, I sometimes miss this person to that person. You know why? Because when they come back, they're in different parts of this screen. Now, in real time, face-to-face classroom, I would always say, yeah, I hear from this person because he was seated on the left and on the right. They always choose the same seat all throughout the semester. So I would say, okay, came from, I remember you said, and I remember, I like to connect what they say and what he said and what she said last time and this time, and how they would come together. I like to integrate their answers together. Yeah. So if you can split your section of 40 to 2 sections, then it's more manageable. Or you can say the first hour, I'm going to see these people. And then on the next hour, the next people, while you do the asynchronous. And this time you are in the synchronous. Just a matter of timing their entry, their entrance to your classroom on the internet. Okay? That's Teacher Grace.
Dr. Ku, before I read the last question,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to read some comments from your former students, from Myra
Really?
Kailan. Thank you, Dr. Ku. I missed being in your class. I learned a lot from this sharing, a lot of takeaways, but I find the 5 tips for mental health most helpful.
Thank
And
you
then
very much.
from Marie Virginia Katage, thank you so much, Dr. Ku. Learning indeed is lifelong process. The
Mhm,
wisdom to know the difference. And
mhm,
for our last question, I've combined the questions from Marian Zabat and Renato Villejo. A lot
mhm.
of clamors and complaints from students and parents with the distance learning modalities,
Mhm.
finding it hard for them to cope. How do we address this? Parents complaining about the new learning modality. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. First of all, we have to understand. You know, I have my colleagues in this department, educational psychology, are younger. Their children are young, and one time I was wondering if this colleague has to teach, and she has administrative load, and she has 2 children to be taken care of at this time through the online learning. How many laptops is she using, and how does she arrange her time or space? I'm talking about structuring. You have to structure so that the children, your family members, know which space is for you to do your class and to attend your class. And please respect that space for a while, maybe 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and time. At what time? If you can put up a family calendar, what time people are attending what class and so on and so forth. So you get an overview of which is the best time for you to do certain things. Now, it's not just personal calendar or appointment book, but a family kind of a calendar book. Yeah, so you will know. Now, I remember, I grew up in a family of 9 children, and I remember so well. My mother was very organized. My eldest sister, and I'm the seventh. My eldest sister was 19 years older than me, and my youngest sister is 6 years younger than me. 9 of us. We were in different stages of our lives, and she was able to organize the use of the car. Can you imagine? First there was one car, then there are 2 cars, and who is going to use which car, commute, and who has to commute, and so on. She was so clear with the timetable of everyone so that we never miss the driver did not miss us in different schools. Some of us were in elementary school, in high school, in college, and so on. So use that mentality right now. You have to look at how the parents are doing, because they have to take care of so many calendars at one time, schedules. No? And of course, I hope the parents would understand the teachers. Teachers are not having a walk in the park at this time. It is a very difficult time for us too. We want to achieve, we want to be productive. We have certain expectations of what makes a good course and so on. And yet, yeah, we are limited because we cannot see each other. So much easier. I was the other day saying, it was so easy for me to teach courses, even these difficult courses, when I just go inside the classroom and bring my, some of my students would know, files of paper, files of notes. So right now I'm not in Manila. So just yesterday, my husband was able to go back to Manila, and I asked, could you just scan those pages on which notebook that I had and all this, and I asked one particular student to say, you just took this course last year. Can you send me my notes? Yeah? And she was very kind to type everything. And she said some of them she could not remember what, and she left it blank. But she got hold of her notebook and she sent back my notes for me. You see, it's hard enough for us at this time. And yet we have to also understand the parents. They also, in normal times, parents complain a lot already, more so at this time. So empathy, mutual empathy toward each other. Parents for the teachers and the teachers for the parents. Thank you very much for your time. And it's my pleasure to speak to you this morning. Yes, Teacher Grace.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koo. There
Mhm.
are a lot of positive comments on the chat box saying that this presentation is truly inspiring and relevant. Thank you very much.
And God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye. So do I just click off, Teacher Grace?
Yes, Dr. Koo. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Hello.